Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com for another edition of Inside the Zone. We're talking a 6-point edition of Inside the Zone, which is about as good as you could say this entire season. Blake Sebring from the News Sentinel joining me, and
totally unexpected, too.
I know, because you don't know what's going to happen. A trip to Louisiana, a trip to Texas. These are trips that these guys haven't made before. Totally new arenas, and yet they come out and play some great hockey.
Well, and there's all sorts of things on a trip like this. You're on strange buses. You're at strange hotels. In fact, the first hotel they went to when they got to Texas late Saturday night, they couldn't get into the rooms, and so they had to go. Luckily, there was another hotel across the street that got them in right away. So, I mean, you know, you never know if you're going to get any kind of sleep at all, and there's all kinds of things that can happen on trips like this.
I've spent a lot of time in Louisiana. All hotels there are weird. It's an interesting place.
Are you saying you spent a lot of time in hotels in Louisiana?
Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
I spent a week in Louisiana one night. Friday night. Let's start there because the Komets have had trouble with the first game of the week, whether it's a Wednesday game, whether it's a Friday game, whether it's home, whether it's away. They start off with a 5-3 win against the Mudbugs, and you had to feel like the momentum was going to carry itself over throughout the weekend just because of how poorly they have played to start weeks before.
Well, what happened, it seemed like they actually got the first goal on a Friday night for once, and that really seemed to give them some momentum. And it was a big hitting game, too. I mean, there was Louisiana, or Beaussier, Shreveport had lost several games in a row, and they were trying to come out and make a statement at home, and the Komets responded, which is kind of nice to see, too. I mean, it was a very physical game, and it was the Komets coming back and not getting pushed around at all.
Yeah, Schrocker threw down the gloves, which is always nice to see, unless
that was a heck of a fight.
Unless you're Schrock's mom, which is an article you wrote last week, and then it's a different story. But for the fans and for us, it's good to talk about. Saturday they come back and get a 2-1 win against the Mudbugs, and
really, if you had a game of the weekend where it could have gone either way, Kevin Ryder stole that game. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was great in that game. He really gave his teammates some confidence. And you know, the few mistakes that they made, he erased almost all of them.
All right, and then on Sunday, you're rolling down to Texas to take on the Brahmas. Interesting article that you had on the Terry Pembroke Association with that team and how that all worked out. 3-2 overtime win. You have to feel good getting a win away and in overtime to wrap up the kind of week that the Komets had.
Oh, they had to be exhausted. I mean, that's basically 3 games in 48 hours in 2 different cities, and you know, the other thing that struck me, too, is, you know, the climate is totally different. It's 75 degrees down there, which doesn't sound like that big a deal, but if you're a hockey player coming in from Fort Wayne, you're going to want to spend as much time outside as possible, and that's going to sap you a little bit. You know, I mean, it takes some adjustment to get used to. But it was a big hitting game. It was kind of like a playoff game that way, and the Komets just kept coming back and kept fighting back.
And when you take a look at what the Komets have been able to do now, 11-3-4 in their last 18. That's as good as anybody in this league. As much as we've been down and fans have been down on the rough start that they've had, I mean, they have played some great hockey in the last month and a half.
Well, and the problem is they've been so inconsistent at home. They've won 7 in a row on the road right now. If they could somehow get that to start carrying over at home, where they've got 17 home games left and only 10 road games, then look out. You know, anything would be possible at that point.
I got that right there. 7-game road winning streak circled, which goes into my next question. How do they carry that over at home? Because they've got a bet. They're 9-9-2 on the road. 9-9-3, 9-9-2.
And 7-9-2 at home.
Right. So they're better away from the Coliseum. And historically, that's not the case. Historically, the Coliseum has been a great place to have a home ice advantage for this team.
Yeah, kinda.
Okay.
You know,
playoff-wise,
the best Komets teams have been the teams that have won 20 games on the road, because they go out on the road and they just relax and they just play, and they're much more solid. That's been historically true the last 5-6 years. Home teams, there's really been only the one team 4 years ago that had the 25-game home winning streak that has really, really dominated at home. And you know, there's all sorts of theories about it. It's like the big crowd, the pressure is more on the Komets than it is on the road team, which comes in and loves to take the crowd out of the game, and they enjoy. There's no pressure on them at all. Komets fans are very demanding. They expect excellence. They don't just applaud it when somebody makes a good play. There's so many more commercials and advertisements and things. There's not as much room in the game for the fans to get into it. There's all kinds of theories. And I think the biggest thing is that I've noticed is when the Komets score first, they're great. When they don't score first, they get tight in a hurry. And they have trouble getting the puck out of their own zone. And, they struggle against the neutral zone trap. And it's like they just know one more mistake could end up in a bad goal, and they're down 2-0, and they just play tighter and tighter and tighter. I think the first goal is huge on these Friday night games.